What's happening? My name is goukigod, and in this video I wanted to talk about Battlefield, and specifically the beta, which ended sometime last week, this week. I'm not exactly sure, I've been on holidays, so I only got to play it a little bit. But it was a game that I was really heavily anticipating. It was a game I was really looking forward to, so I thought I'd share my thoughts on it, because it didn't actually live up to the hype for me. It wasn't as amazing as I thought it might be, but that doesn't mean that I thought it was crap either. Anyway, it was really nice that we got to play the Battlefield beta so soon after the Titanfall 2 test, because these are two games that I'm really looking forward to, and I'll probably only end up getting one, so it was kind of nice to play them so close together to be able to kind of weigh up the pros and cons of each one. Now, like I said, I wasn't totally blown away with Battlefield 1. I thought that there was a few things that I didn't enjoy so much. There was a lot that I liked about it, but I think that it's good to hear negative reviews or less favorable opinions about things that you're potentially interested in or potentially going to drop money on, because it helps you get a better understanding if something's going to be right for you or not. You need to get the whole picture. Now, before I go any further with this video, I'm just going to put a small disclosure out there that I suck. I'm not sure what it is about this game. I mean, I don't have the greatest aim anyway in other first-person shooters, but for whatever reason in this game, I am absolutely terrible. So I apologize for the quality of the gameplay. You're going to see some absolutely appalling aim, but yeah, just deal with it. It actually took me quite a while to find the correct sensitivity settings for me. So there is a fair few sliders in the options which allow you to tweak the settings, and eventually I did find something that was a little bit easier, but yeah, initially quite a steep learning curve. Now, just quickly, for those of you who didn't get to play and aren't exactly sure what was in the beta, and for some reason haven't watched 1,000 other videos on YouTube which have covered the exact same topic, I'll just give you a quick overview of what was in this beta. So there was only one map, it was the Sinai Desert, and it was absolutely huge. There was lots of verticality, there was lots of interiors, which really showed off the game's destructibility. So it was quite a good map to get a first impressions of the game, and the sandstorm that kind of rolls through, I'm not sure if it comes through on a timer or if it's random, but the sandstorm that comes through is really, really awesome. There were two modes in the beta. There was Conquest, which was 64 players, and there was Rush, which was only 24 players. I don't know why they limited it to 24 players. It would have been more fun, I think, with 64, but anyway, Rush was still fun with 24. There was a bunch of vehicles in this test. There were tanks, horses, planes, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to play with, and there was also the Armored Train, which is one of the behemoths in the game. And again, I didn't get a chance to play with this. I didn't actually see it in my time with the beta test, which was a little bit unfortunate because apparently it's a bit of a game changer. Now, in terms of the weapons, at a high level, the main types of weapon primaries are assault rifles, SMGs, light machine guns, semi-automatic rifles, and sniper rifles, but there's a ton of other weapons as well: handguns, flamethrowers, heavy machine guns, mounted weapons, all that sort of stuff. So in terms of variety, there is a huge amount of stuff in Battlefield 1, and I have to say that was actually a concern of mine going into this game, that many of the weapons would feel the same or boring, but I think DICE has done a really good job at sort of digging out those obscure weapons and the prototype weapons that not a lot of people know about. Now, like the previous Battlefield games, all the weapons are class-based. They generally tie into the type of class that you're with, so whether that be support or medic or something like that. There weren't any weapon upgrades in the test, at least not when I was playing. They were locked out, so we didn't get to test any of the attachments or anything else that they've done. I'm really keen to see how they've swapped this up, particularly because it's a World War I setting. I mean, it makes sense in modern shooters to have lots of attachments, but I think back at the beginning of last century, they probably didn't have so many things that they put on their weapons, so you wouldn't have had heaps of different optical sights or laser trackers or anything like that. So I'm keen to see what they do in the full game. The biggest impression from all the weapons that I used from this new game is that you need to get used to using really huge, obtrusive iron sights. I'm not sure going down the line if there'll be optics or better irons that you can unlock and equip, but the default irons on a lot of weapons are absolutely huge and make a lot of them very, very difficult to see, or they completely cut down your peripheral vision, which makes them a lot harder to use. And combined with this, a lot of the weapons have a huge amount of recoil, particularly the SMGs, so these things are really melty up close, but anything beyond medium to long range, even at medium range, these things kick just to the sky. So don't expect to be picking targets off on the other side of the map using any of the close range weapons. The most important takeaway I came away with from this beta test is that Battlefield 1 does feel very much like a Battlefield game, which is great. That's exactly what you want. You know, it's such a new setting and there are completely new weapons, and it's a massive departure from the modern military setting which they've been doing for quite some time now. So there was a big opportunity for it not to feel like a proper Battlefield game, but it certainly does. It's a lot faster than I expected. The time to kill is really, really quick. You die super fast, and that wasn't something that I was expecting. I kind of thought, being a World War I game, that it would be a lot slower, a lot more methodical, and it certainly is a lot more strategic and a lot more tactical than games like Call of Duty or even Titanfall, but it's definitely a lot faster than I thought it would be. The vehicles that I did get to play with are actually quite fun. The tanks in particular was something that I was worried wouldn't be fun, because all the stuff that I read about them beforehand, it sounded like they were going to be really technical. So the Mark IV tank, which is the large British tank that multiple players can get into, has lots of different seats and different functions, and I kind of thought that you would need multiple people to make it work, but you can actually drive it around just as one person, or you can just sit in a gunner's seat and take out enemy players without particularly communicating. That's one thing that I will mention about this beta, is that there wasn't a ton of people communicating, which is a big deal for a Battlefield game, because you really need that communication and that squad team effort to succeed. One of the things that I really like about the vehicles is there's now an animation to get in. So particularly with the tanks, you kind of open up a little panel and you see your character kind of climb inside. And it definitely helps with that sort of immersive experience. The one thing that I will complain about though is that there's no exit animation, or at least I didn't see any when getting out of a tank. So you kind of climb in this nice animated way, but then when you get out, it's just like bang, and you've teleported outside, which I thought was a little bit jarring. In terms of the horses, a lot of people have been saying that the horses are absolutely awesome. Some people have even been saying that horses are overpowered. I, on the other hand, with my sucky skills, really sucked at horses. I found them very difficult to use. I will agree that the charging and running around with the saber and stabbing people and slashing people down is quite effective, but the rifle I just thought was absolutely useless. But again, I didn't spend a huge amount of time on it, so it's quite possible that I didn't get a hang of it and didn't get to understand the true potential of the horse. And that kind of brings me on to the point of accessibility with this game. I felt like this game is hard. I generally find Battlefield games a lot harder than other first-person shooters. I'm quite a casual player. I like to lone wolf it quite a lot. I do play with friends, and I do like to team up and try and play a little bit more strategically, but I also like to run around and just shoot people. And I found this game quite difficult to do that with. This game is really team-focused. I mean, obviously the modes that were in the beta, being Conquest and Rush, were really focused on team play, but I think based on my experience, this game seems to be even more team focused than the previous games, and success will really come down to smart strategy and a team that works really cohesively. So I think ultimately your enjoyment level of this game will really depend on how many friends you've got to play it with, or at least people that you know that regularly play it, so you can team up and work together to win matches. Like I said, the gameplay itself feels very much like previous Battlefield games. They've changed up a lot of things. They've added new mechanics in there. The one off the top of my head that I really like is the bayonet charge. It just sounds ridiculous when you press the button down, or whatever key it is on the keyboard, and your character just sounds like he's taking a really huge dump and then charges forward, and then if you get someone, the kill animation is really satisfying. And that brings me to presentation. This game looks and sounds absolutely fantastic. You can see a huge amount of influence from Battlefront. Not just in the visual presentation, I think there's a very sort of Battlefront look and feel to it, which is excellent, because Battlefront is one of the nicest looking shooters to come out from DICE so far. But the similarities also extend to things like the menus. The radar as well, I think, works in a similar way in terms of detecting where enemies are. And I would say that this game looks even better than Battlefront. Things like gas and the explosions look really, really impressive, so I think DICE has done such an amazing job with the presentation of this game. It seemed to run pretty smoothly on PS4. I know this wasn't the case for everybody. Some people I know said that it was a bit choppy, that the frame rate kind of dipped. I did notice some minor frame rate dips when I was in a vehicle, like some of the little cars, but otherwise it seemed to run pretty well. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, there were a few things that I didn't really enjoy with this beta, and they could just be isolated to the beta. I didn't get to play a huge amount of time. Like I said, I went on holiday, so I didn't get to play this nearly as much as I would have liked, and probably as much as I needed to get a full understanding of how much I was going to enjoy this game. But some of the things that gave me the shits were, there were loads of snipers. I think the reason that snipers were so annoying is that people hadn't really figured out how to counter them or where they were, so I just seemed to be getting nailed from all kinds of angles, and my team didn't seem to be doing anything anything about taking them out. Spotting didn't seem to be happening at all, and that may be partly due to the fact that it seemed to require pinpoint accuracy to spot someone. You needed to have your crosshairs directly over the target in order to get that spotting marker. So with the reduced radar capabilities, it did make it quite difficult, for me at least, to know where all the other enemy players were. Something else that kind of annoyed me, and that is certainly something that could be remedied later on depending on how many people I know who play the game, is needing a really good team to play with. It seemed like all the matches that I played were incredibly one-sided, where one team would absolutely dominate and the other team would get completely crushed. It never seemed to be really close. I know that it's super early days and the skill levels of people playing the beta would vary dramatically. Maybe that's a matchmaking problem, that it wasn't splitting up the skilled and non-skilled players as effectively as it could be. But that's certainly something that I'll be considering when the full game comes out. So in summary, yeah, I'm not sure I'm exactly sold on Battlefield 1. It's certainly good, it certainly plays well, it looks fantastic, and I can't really fault the game in any area. Yes, I mean, there were bugs in the beta, but that's to be expected in a test. But I felt like the game in general was missing that X factor. It definitely has that solid boots on ground, reality-based experience, which I think is the only type of AAA title that's doing it this year. So you're not going to get that from Titanfall 2, and you're definitely not going to get that from Call of Duty, unless of course you're playing the remastered version of Modern Warfare. So I think if that's something that's really important to you, then this will definitely be the title to look at once it launches. I think for people who are interested in which one to get, whether it be Titanfall 2, New Call of Duty, or this one, it's a difficult choice this year because at least Battlefield versus the other two games is very, very different. So I think it's totally plausible that you could pick up either Infinite Warfare or Titanfall 2 and this. I'm not saying that those are the only shooters, but those are the big three that are coming out very soon. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Battlefield 1, just based on the small slice of the beta that I played. If you got into the beta and have an opinion about it, let me know what you think in the comments section. So anyway, that's all I've got for you in this video. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm out.